From Timcast.com, James O'Keefe accused of erratic behavior by 16 Project Veritas employees. James has become a power-drunk tyrant, said one unnamed employee in a letter submitted to the organization's board. Nobody's buying it. I've got my sources, and I'm not buying it. This is the letter that we were able to obtain through, let me just say, sources in New York media. Apparently, this had been circulating to a certain degree. And I want you to know a few things. One, this letter is signed by, I believe, 16 employees, accusing James O'Keefe of being a power-drunk tyrant, and he is exactly who he pontificates on who we should be exposing. Now, this letter includes very important bits of information and context, which leads me to believe, I think there are people trying to oust James O'Keefe not because of any of these perceived grievances. I think they're trying to just remove him as an element of Project Veritas because, I mean, he's the guy. He is Veritas. I would put it this way. If you're an organization with 65 employees and you generate millions plus in donor revenue, I imagine the board members are thinking like, hey, the one problem we have in terms of control of this money is James O'Keefe. He's an ideological figurehead who believes in a mission and founded this. This happens with big companies all the time. It's like in Spider-Man. Remember when Willem Dafoe is playing Harry Osborn and he's like, do you have any idea how much I've sacrificed? And they're getting rid of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You get rid of James O'Keefe from this organization, and you are free to use that money however you see fit. The problem is, I don't think anyone's going to support him. Now, as we mentioned, they're saying that they were bullied, that he's a tyrant. Let me read for you the top note, because they certainly had to include this. It says, the opinions, data shared, and anecdotes were compiled by 1/3 of the Project Veritas staff, representing every department. Not all signed this letter, but all had compelling reason to contribute. Some signatories have not been the subject of abuse nor witnessed any abuse, but found the corroborated behavior troubling and were willing to sign. You know that means right there?
Sounds like a load of garbage to me.
Yeah, what did they sign exactly?
So imagine this. You work at Project Veritas. Someone walks up to you and says, we think James O'Keefe is bad and he's done these things. Will you sign a letter? And they say, sure. Next thing you know, the board comes together. There's a viral Twitter thread where one guy is saying, reporting, according to his sources, one of the board members who orchestrated this had a whole thing scripted in ousting James O'Keefe. So I've reached out to James. I've not heard from him. But admittedly, look, man, you know, when I saw this and a few other stories today, I was like, dude,
I got questions, man.
It's getting crazy right now.
Okay, so first of all, if you sign your name to a paper that's making a statement, that's an indication that you are making the statement. And if you didn't see the things that you're signing onto, that's fraud, or at least could be construed as fraud. So don't sign something that you don't believe in.
I think that's what the disclaimer's for, though, isn't it? Yeah. To make sure that to say, look, I didn't see this, but there was a disclaimer saying that I didn't see this. But I think that James is a bad person.
It needs to be more fleshed out than just an introduction with like some of these people. Like it needs to be on the signatories. You need to see who didn't see it, who is just following along and signing for the fun or because they feel like okay, and who actually witnessed the things. That needs to be very implicit.
It should be.
Ian, what it is sign this if you don't like him, okay?
That's really what it isn't that the vibe that you pick up? It's essentially, it's like people that have some kind of incentive to not work for James O'Keefe, whether it be people that want control of Project Veritas, like on the board or whatever, if he's inhibiting activities they want, you know, because he is ideological, which is the point of Project Veritas. Like the whole point of it is he's ideological and they're looking to, you know, uncover bias and stuff. So I think that it seems like it's all emotionally motivated, you know, with people that have some kind of, some kind of benefit from James O'Keefe not running Project Veritas.
To play devil's advocate on the side of the people that are creating this letter, because I love James and his work, is that maybe in the last year stress has been getting to James. Like I feel like I can empathize with what he's been going through the last year. Like I saw him tweet out, like, I'm not suicidal, by the way. Like, you don't tweet that out if you're not stressed out. Like, obviously,
no, I don't buy it. Look at this. I don't believe this. I literally don't believe it. I've had people saying like, Tim must be so stressed out, and it's like, dude, I'm like, people make up stories about you, man. Look at this.
Make up a lot.
At Democracy Partners trial in public, I was yelled at in front of jurors because he was hungry, and then he took the 8-month pregnant woman's sandwich. Like, come on, man. Like, am I supposed to believe that James O'Keefe like walked up to an 8-month pregnant woman was like, "Give me your sandwich, I'm hungry," and snatched it from her? That sounds like something someone made up to make him sound bad.
Well, right, because if I take something from you, it could be because I went over and grabbed it out of your hand, or it could be because you offered it to me and then I took it.
I will.
Sorry, I really don't
That's
think
true.
I don't think that the person that's accusing James, I don't think they're saying that the child gave him the sandwich. I think that they're
No, an 8-month pregnant woman.
Oh, okay. So, well, I don't feel like
He might have been like,
Whatever.
"Hey,
Well,
look, I'm hungry. Can I have that?"
I'm
And she's like, "Okay."
wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
On your suicide point, Ian, I mean, I'd have to know the context, but I know it's a common thing. Like, literally, I started out from the beginning with the Yeeky thing about the suicide. So I don't know the context in which he said it. It could have been like a snarky remark with O'Keefe, with the kind of things he covered. He's obviously alluding, like, hey, if something happens to me, it wasn't me.
That's
You know, that
exactly.
kind
It
of
was like a
thing.
tweet.
Yeah.
Like he just said it in a tweet,
Look,
like
yeah.
just a couple sentences. Elon's been doing some similar things. I'm sure he's under an immense amount of stress right now.
I've talked about how people claimed I went to their house in Boston and walked in their house at 2 a.m. and turned the TV on. And people tweet that kind of stuff and they believe it. I look at this and I'm like, James walked up to a pregnant woman and stole her sandwich.
That's the thing. Take is not steal.
That-
He
but-
might have
but-
asked her and she said yes.
That's
but
right.
not been happy about it.
So consider this too. It may be that they're greatly exaggerating these things. Look, man, I kind of feel like, I'll put it this way. I worked for nonprofits. Imagine you have an organization founded by somebody else. They're ideologically driven. We have a mission. This is what we're going to do, and this is why we do it. And you're like, I want $5 million in cash. This organization's got $50 million, but James won't let me pay myself. We got to get rid of James. These are the kind of thing that happens these are the kind of things that happen at big companies after a long period of time. They want to get rid of the person in charge who's motivated by a mission. There's a saying that a buddy of mine was an entrepreneur, said, some people are good at starting companies and some people are good at running companies. Some people are founders, some people are CEOs. Somebody founds a company and then they hand it off to the CEO. The CEOs are very different from the founders. So my view of this is just my personal opinion and my bias. Because like I mean, this sandwich thing really is there. And then there's also something else I want to show you. If I would, let me first ask you guys this. When you think of Project Veritas, who do you think of?
James O'Keefe.
Hands down.
Yeah,
James
without
O'Keefe is Project Veritas. That's not what they think. Here's an image. Look at this. There is honestly no Project Veritas without us. You know, look, partially true. This is our moment to make history. I hope James can realize we're doing this out of love for the mission.
Yeah, that's all created in their own head. When they start saying that they're doing things out of love that are bad for a person, that's rationalizing doing something they know is immoral and bad. So I think that Tim's right on. I think that they're motivated by it.
It could be tough love.
No. Ousting him like this abruptly?
Yeah, I don't know.
I worked for several nonprofits, all right?
Not in this context, either.
And here's what happens. Because these organizations don't function like the same kind of companies. People who work here work for a mission. They're not. Part of the reason you get paid less when you work at a nonprofit is because you're doing something you want to do for a mission. And so at every single nonprofit office I worked, these are all events, fundraising, street canvassing, etc. They had a policy, all of them, to fire every single person in the office the moment a person starts expressing demoralization. I mean, like morale. And so the fear was, if somebody starts getting upset and feeling aggravated or aggrieved, they'll go to a person in another room and go, yeah, what's going on, man? And they're like, nothing, what are you doing? I'm so sick of this, man. Like, James was talking to me and I'm tired of it, man. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? James has yelled at you. Yeah, I mean, sometimes. And then what happens is the negativity and the demoralization starts spreading from person to person, where they get angrier and angrier. Then they all start going to each other. This has happened at every office I've worked. My argument's always been, you need to have a company-wide meeting. You need to have a pizza party. You need to make people feel good. You can't just fire everybody, but this is what they do. They churn and burn. They just burn through people. I'm wondering if a component of this is somebody who wants James O'Keefe ousted from the organization, wants control of the assets and resources, is going around telling people like, yeah, like that time he yelled at you, remember? And they're like, oh, yeah. And they took that woman's sandwich. Yeah, he did do that. And then a week later, they're like, remember when you told me that he yelled at you and took that woman's sandwich? Yeah, we wrote that down, signed the paper, and they go, oh, okay.
The thing is, once you make accusations against people too, regardless of what the truth is and regardless of how easy it is to disprove it, they'll run with that narrative. So in New Hampshire, for example, there was this senator race going on. There was Don Baldock against Maggie Hassan. And Joa from Breaking the Flaw, who's a co-host on Free Talk Live with me, he was at this protest and he was definitely, being annoying and getting in people's faces, but he never touched anybody, never laid a hand on anyone. And Don Baldock basically just lied and said that he attacked him and hit him. And, there was video footage of everything that was going on, and we released it from the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, showing that they never touch each other at all or anything. But it just ran with it, and then the Democrats were picking it up too, even though they could use this as an attack against Baldock. They knew that it would have been very easy to say, like, look, this guy isn't telling the truth. But just because a narrative was put out there, it's impossible to disprove it, even if you have all the video footage and everything. So,
well, that's because there is a motivated block of people a block of people that are motivated to believe it, or at least to spread it, even if they don't actually believe it.
Pile-on culture.
Yeah,
which is like it's a tough justification to not utilize false accusations against your enemy. Because it's like they're your enemy and you need to win. If it's the combat state of mind conflict, anything to get the job done in those situations. But when like the culture, when you're having communication, it's like, I mean, I know that desire. Like, I want this so bad that I'm willing to accept falsehoods to get it. It's just not the right ethics.
I think that's sloppy tactics, though. I think that the move, if you're smart, you sit back, you evaluate the battlefield, you wait, you find something accurate, something that will literally pierce the enemy's heart, if you will, and that's what you go for. Like, I mean, obviously, maybe you can make disinformation work for you sometimes, but I think in the long run, it's a failing strategy. But
sometimes it's just a really long run. Yeah. You wish it would go faster.
I'm not so confident that it actually is a failing strategy. I mean, all's fair in love and war is a phrase for a reason. Underhanded tactics frequently work, even if they're underhanded. And I think that you see that in modern politics pretty clearly. I mean, it's not rare for a politician to lie about their opponent or to exaggerate or to pick up a Republican that attacks a Republican. It's not unusual for a Democrat to pick up the attack if the person is leading, So I really do think that the all's fair in love and war thing is predominant in at least this particular issue.
But how do people feel about the government right now? How do they feel about Congress? I mean, that's my long. It might be. It's a kind of how much your time preference. How long are you willing to look out in the future? So here we are now. We're like the Congress is like lowest level ever.
But everyone hates Congress for different reasons. Yes. You ask most people, and they are happy with their own Congress people. The people they don't like are the Congress people that get in the way of the policies that their congressperson is looking to push forward.
After last night, we did a show at Congress in Lauren Boebert's office. I gained a new love for those people and that building and the Congress itself. It felt very inviting. Like it a lot of people really want to do good, and they have different tactics.
It was real inviting.
I'm trying really hard not to make a January 6th joke, Phil.
It was shocking how at home I felt there. How like good it felt. The people are like at this level of what we talk about on the show, kind of like all of them are at this, I think. Then I guess there's a lot of probably older Congress people that aren't fired up, and those people are just like, paying the bill to get by. I'm not as interested in that mentality, but the young people that want to provoke change and stop crazy change is like, I'm all on board with that. So my Congress approval rating is up after yesterday, personally.
Wow.
But I will point out, we're not at war. This is not a war. So if people are using false accusations to get James ousted, it's not war, and all is not fair in legal battles. So if they're doing something underhanded, I think that's going to get some people in a lot of trouble.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.